Hello friends, it is Sunday, June 3rd, 2018, but for the sake of this video, let's pretend that it is the morning of Monday, June 4th, 2018. The high on Monday should be about 78 degrees, but it's going to rain all day, which is why I'm coming to you Sunday evening. Let's take a look at the garden. Oh yeah, some big changes, more growth. Let's look at the trees first. The Macintosh is a good anchor just to look at. It's a really pretty tree. I'm seeing lots of new growth. Let me stabilize this for a second. Just the tops here. I love how they form in this like fuzzy little packet. And there's all sorts of interesting little bugs on here. Just a few moments ago I saw this cute little green one. I can't find them now. Anyways, they're not eating the leaves, so I'm happy. The peach. This is where we had all those blossoms earlier. And you can see, oh look at that, there's some fruit. For reference, it's just smaller than a knuckle. And I think I got one up, yep, look at this, oh, it's windy. Got one up here, and look at that. It's fuzzy. It's actual peach fuzz, that's so cool. I apologize now for any sort of wind noise. It's very windy, so we've probably got some sort of a storm that's rolling in. Sorry about that. I have been busy. Man, Saturday and Sunday were full days for me. These are wood chips. I got them for free from a place. Unfortunately, it's about a 20-minute drive one direction, so I've only been able to do 9 full trips, cramming them in the back of my SUV. I've gotten about 10 bags per trip, and the bags are about 39 gallons. So I will do a follow-up video with some math to tell you what the dollar value of all these free trips is compared to the cheapest mulch that's offered at our local greenhouse or landscaping service. And the cheapest one is about $39 a yard, I think, and I've probably done 7 or 8 yards thus far, and I'm about halfway done because most of this, it's 4 inches deep where it was just grass and dirt, but it's about 8 to 10 inches deep in between all of these, you know, where I had dug out the dirt and filled in the raised beds. So we'll get to that in a second. You'll notice the rain chain. That's a new addition right here. That was made by Bridget's uncle, and for the last several years it was living on this maple tree, but we decided to move it over here after we trimmed the maple. Took out the little rabbit fence that used to be winding around there because I wanted to bring out the line of mulch pretty far. I think this is going to serve as a weed barrier, and I'll probably dig a small trench and maybe even bring this out a little bit further, maybe 6 inches or a foot in front of the door. And I will put, I don't know if I'm going to put the rabbit fence back or not, because I am eventually going to build that cute little picket fence, the faux fence. And by taking that wire out, I was able to reclaim this area right here, which we'll see in a bit. That was just overgrown grass and such. So these are wood chips of all sorts of different sizes and style of tree. Like this is a reddish piece, light, dark, you name it. And it's nice and dense and it smells fantastic. And the price was right. So let's look at some of the vegetables. Hey, you like my gnome? This apparently was my grandpa's, my mom's dad, and grandma said, "Why don't you take it?" And I said, okay. So this bed, 2 different types of carrots. This type is really taken, that type has really not. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but you can see we've got some pretty big growth here. These are about 3.5, 4 inches tall, whereas this side is more spindly and it's closer to 1.5 inches or 2 inches tall. Then we've got the radishes. I think 2 or 3 types of radish. Whatever that back one is very successful. I'll have to check my notes. But you can see we've already got some actual radish heads going here. I think I'm looking at 28 days-ish from germination to harvest on these. So I think that's coming up in another 2.5 or 3 weeks, which is cool. The beets are coming along interspersed. Like, that's a really good plant. Most of the beets are about, what is this, 3 inches tall, and they look really lovely. You can tell it's a beet because of that pretty beet red veiny color, even though these ones are more of a yellow. I don't think that's showing up on camera. I forget which is which. I have some from that new seed company and then some from Seed Savers, an old batch. They all seem to be germinating equally, I just didn't plant them properly. And actually, I pulled the one over here after I had thinned it out. You can see this little stalk right there. That's the root of a beet that I pulled accidentally. The lettuce looks really lovely. I think in another week or two, this will be ripe for cut and come again harvesting. Aren't these pretty? It's a mix of different ones. This is just their spring green mix from Seed Savers. And I think they're gorgeous. And the spinach is at a point where you can actually tell, oh yeah, that's spinach, you know, clearly. So some nice salads soon to come. And the nice thing about trying these, you know, in the springtime, this is my first time obviously planting in raised beds, and I'm experimenting with the width of my rows, so between seeds. Sorry about that wind. So I'll be able to do another planting of this for a fall garden and adjust appropriately. So should be pretty cool. Just look at this. Look at how nice this is. This was just tall grass and weeds, and it's covered really thick, I tell you. So hopefully that will be suppressing weeds. No, I did not put anything down underneath it. Why? Well, I tested it on these trees, and I just filled these like, I think 3 inches thick with mulch, and grass hasn't been growing in. The grass that you do see around the edges here is just seeping in from edges, but not in the middle. So I have expectations that I'm not really going to get anything growing in here, weed-wise. Thistles are the only thing that I'm really worried about. Thistles and dandelions, because they have deep tap roots, but I think it's thick enough that they'll be squashed out. And I've knocked everything down before I planted over it. And in spots where it was really thick, dense with weeds, I did put down some cardboard and newspaper. Next bed. Onions look really good. Clearly the transplant worked very well. You can see the changing colors of the tips of the onions. So we are just a little bit away from these turning into the small little shallots that give it the quintessential walking onion look. This little butterfly plant is looking great. The kale transplants are growing. They're probably twice the size as last week. Clearly there's much more foliage on here. The zucchini has taken off. Look at this. I don't know if this is powdery mildew or what this is. I don't have any like insects that are causing this damage yet, but it seems to happen always. So this will take off, and it will take over a big area, which is why I gave it space, and it will squash out these weeds and things, which I can pull. Great big thistle. Should have just pulled that. But the celery is growing about at the same rate as last year. The tallest ones here, probably 3-4 inches. Next bed, tomatoes. Tomatoes are doing really well. Now everybody is through the first, here I'll sit down. Everybody's through the first round of sisal wire. You can see it's doing a good job holding these guys up. This one is really wanting to fall over, but the wire is doing what it's supposed to do. You can see it's awfully windy here, and they're holding up just fine. This is the ground cherry tomato plant. It was just the one-off that I got. We've already got a nice series of buds on that, as you can see, as it focuses with the wind. So I know this will be a really good producer. And this could already, you see the notch there? It could probably benefit from the second notch of sisal wire. So maybe that's something I should do before I go in for the night. Tomatoes coming along well. The broccoli, despite blowing so much in the wind, is doing really well. It's about a foot tall right now. And I've never grown broccoli before, but I'm assuming it grows somewhat like cauliflower, where this is the point in its growth cycle that it's going to essentially fall off to the side and start growing. I don't know. I imagine this has to level out somehow, because it's like, look at this. This is kind of stocky, you know, and it's falling over. So I'm just waiting to see if that's going to, I don't know, develop a broccoli head or what it's going to do. But the leaves sure are pretty, and they're soft. They're pretty big too. Broccoli. Oh, I just can't get over the wood chips. It's so nice. It's so nice. So this area here I had seeded late in the game for an assortment of herbs and things. and it's not going to happen. It's just weeds coming up. So I'm going to probably fix that this week or so and go to the greenhouse and get some end of season herbs, you know, put some rosemary in there and basil and all that kind of stuff. The peppers are all through the first rung of sisal on this style trellis. Some varieties are growing more than others. And as you can see, we've had flowers already. We got little peppers starting. This cute little pepper. I think this is the banana pepper here. It's pretty cool to see it. They're doing very nicely. And as you can see, I've slowly been going through and just disrupting the weeds, kind of knocking them over. And then they tend not to reroot. Like I knocked these yesterday, and this is already like a light sage green, and it's wilted, and that's just fine. Potatoes. Yeah, I decided not to pick these up and put them on top of the wood chips. One part, that's me being lazy. Actually, 100%, that's just me being lazy. So we'll see. I've got lots more trips of wood chips to do, but the potatoes are growing up nicely. I think we're to a point where I can add some more soil to this. But they've been getting good drainage, and I expect good growth. It's happened nice and quickly. I planted a spaghetti squash here, and my intent, now right now this area is full of just old trellises and pots and stuff. It's kind of a junk heap. I've got to clean all that out, and I'll chip this all pretty high, and I want the spaghetti squash just to kind of grow in that direction. That's my thought right now, because of course over here is where the corn and the sunflowers are. In 1 week, great growth. I think last week when I came to you, these are about 4 inches tall. This corn is well over 8 inches now. It's super hard to tell blowing in the wind because they're tipping over. But these guys are doing great, really great. Our metric up, oh, great angle, I'm sure. Our metric up here in Oshkosh, we say knee-high by the 4th of July. So that's what I'm shooting for. I think I planted these soon enough. And the way that they're growing now, just the first week in June, add another, 5 weeks to that, I think we'll be at knee-high by 4th of July. Same with the sweet corn. Both rows over there look great. The sunflowers, unfortunately, it is not working. There's another one that was recently eaten by something. I have had no luck. So I think what I'm going to do is, again, when I'm taking that trip to the greenhouse, I'm just going to get some established plants and plant them in the rows. They won't be the mammoth, except for this one that survived to the point of not getting eaten. So I'll have one mammoth sunflower, and everything else will maybe just be 8 feet. That's okay. Doesn't this look nice? Don't these chips just set off the garden? I'm so pleased. I know this is a much longer video than normal. Thanks for staying tuned. Of course, this will all be weeded and wood chipped probably by the next time. I'm thinking I'll be able to do like 1 load a day of chips. I think I can probably, like if I get up at 6 and I drive, get a load, bring it back, dump it, I'll have, 30 minutes or so before I need to start work. That's the plan. We'll see how it actually matriculates. The raspberries are doing really well. I'm interested to see how the early harvest is. As you can see, we've got lots of flowers. The 0 and 1st year canes bloom early, and then years 2 and 3, they bloom in the fall. That's where we get the majority of the buds. And it seems like the bees are all quiet for the night, so there's not a whole lot of action to look at. The gooseberries, on the other hand, are just freaking crazy. I should probably take some stakes and like stake up a circle around this and wire it, because these are so heavy with fruit that they've bent over. And look at this. It's just berry, 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 berry. We're still a little bit early. I wasn't sure what the final size is. I think the final size is supposed to be about as big as a grape. Most of these, here, take a look at my thumbnail. You can just compare the size. They're not quite as big as a thumbnail yet. And that's about the size that we're shooting for. Some are a little bit bigger than others. But it's really cool to see. I think this is just the greatest. Gooseberries, man. I have harvested more rhubarb this year than ever in years past. And it seems like as I cut, it just fills in the space and comes again. Look at down here. Tons. I should get myself a little stand at the farmer's market or something. We had our first farmer's market yesterday. It was great to walk through. Didn't buy anything except asparagus. Oh, asparagus. So I'm thinking this fall I'm going to get a couple starters of asparagus. I don't know what to expect. Some asparagus. And I'm going to do some white asparagus here and some green asparagus here. Plant it interspersed so like the asparagus can grow up early, and then I can plant my tomatoes and peppers and other things around it next year. That's my thought. Let me know if you do something like that. Otherwise, these raspberries, you can just see how quickly they're growing already in a week. Like this chunk here has taken up the middle section and is about to cross over the top. By the end of this year, this will all be as full as this. So it will truly be a perimeter. Looking real nice, except for this area that apparently none of my transplants decided to go into. That's fine. These are all first year canes, which is why all of these are full of buds. And these kind of weeds, this is more like ground cover weeds. I don't know what to call these, but I mean, that's pretty much grass over there that's coming up. This I'm just going to, rake down and cover. I don't think anything is going to grow through it. They're such shallow weeds anyways, except for the few dandelions. What I don't see in here though, and bear with me for a second, are ground cherries. So like this brown stalk here and that brown stalk there are the ends of the ground cherries. I didn't dig up the roots last year, and they come back. They're perennial. They're kind of like weeds. I was expecting them to show up just normally, and they haven't. So I don't know if they were damaged by that late blizzard that we got or what the deal is, but this area, nothing. So I'm going to cover the whole thing, going to cover this all with mulch. Excuse me. And then if we plant anything, we'll just dig the mulch aside next year or plant it in pots. Oh, there's a big gust of wind. Whee! Don't you like that sunshine? I think that's pretty cool. And I think I showed you this. Oh yeah, somebody left a great comment in last week's garden tour, how this branch that we used as a post is growing again after it had been cut for a year. And I think the comment was something about that's why you have to add so much glue to the end grain of a board, because it just soaks it up. So that's a testament to the architecture of nature. We haven't gone through these middle ones yet. I need to thin these out. Let me get on the wood chips. An assortment of gourds, pumpkins, watermelon, cantaloupe. They're all doing very well, and I do need to thin these out because I should probably have one plant every foot or so, not every 4 inches. I didn't expect the germination to be that successful. But before I thin them out, I need to make another arch trellis, and that's going to have to wait probably another week. The nice thing about these, when you get these big plants, you don't really get many weeds, and they tend to die, which is good. So nothing to show here except, they're coming through. And then of course this arched trellis, thank you for your suggestions last week. I haven't implemented any of them, but there were some good ones. Somebody suggested running some wire through the tubes and stabilizing it. Somebody else suggested a wooden laminate arch, kind of from a Matthias Wandel video. And I think I'm going to do a permutation of that. The peas have really grown. For example, these are the ones that we referenced last week. And I think it was 6 rows up, and now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is the tallest. And they just do so great. And I just get out here and I encourage them. I see one coming up and I just put it between the wires, make sure these little tendrils have something to grab onto. Oh, I know, the focus, it's terrible. The volunteer bean, we're going to find out what this is. It's just one that came up from the soil. So I don't know if this is like a purple one from last year or what, but it's already gonna wrap around and climb up in between the beans. Essentially everything is the same over on this side. The beans that we planted over here are coming up really nicely. You see, they're gonna crawl alongside the peas. I hope they don't overcompete. I thought that I had given them enough time so the peas would be mostly mature by the time these started to climb, but didn't turn out that way. Note for self next year. And then over here are the cucumbers. These are cukes. These will grow and climb along the trellis as well. And the okra looks like the okra I planted just didn't happen. And that's okay. So, No need to open up the garden gate since the fence is gone here. But that is your garden tour for the first week of June. 20-some minutes. Wow. Thanks for sticking along for this. So what do you think? What do you think about my wood chips? Have you done that before? What do you think about all the growth? Any suggestions? There's still plenty of time to shake things up. I'd love to hear what you have to say, maybe about my sunflowers or this fruit or chips or trellises or anything else. How are things growing in your garden? And yeah, if you're new, I hope you subscribe. It's always fun. Leave a comment below. I do answer all of them. And until next time, happy gardening. Bye, guys.